So there, we were just showing you that press conference from earlier out of Texas City, Texas, where the civil rights attorney Ben Crump was speaking on this case in which Joshua Feast, that 22-year-old black man, was shot to death by a Marque police officer December 9th. We do have a live report to break this story down because some of you may not be familiar with it. I know I was not, and we're going to go out now to Fox 26 Randy Wallace, and he is going to break all this story down for us. Randy, can you kind of just describe, for those of us who might not be familiar with the incident itself, what happened to 22-year-old Joshua Feast?
It happened last week. Apparently, the Marque police were telling us that there was some sort of an ongoing investigation, that it involved people that were had guns, had stolen guns. They were shooting at property at locations. No one had been hit or anything. Well, last week, Officer Jose Santos spotted Joshua Feast in a car near Joshua Feast's home. He was going to serve him with a felony warrant. It was a charge of felon in possession of a weapon. Well, apparently something went horribly wrong. Now, according to witnesses, Feast got out of the car and Officer Santos shot him once in the back. Now, that's according to witnesses. That's one of the things that Ben Crump pointed to in the press conference. And as you heard, supposedly at 6 p.m. tomorrow evening, he's going to release the findings of an independent autopsy that will prove that Feast was shot once in the back. Now, this is another question that gets sort of fuzzy. Apparently, the police found a gun on the street. Now, a witness says that Feast threw a gun out the window of the vehicle before he got out and ran. Police say another gun was found, but it's not clear where that gun was. It's not clear if the gun was on Feast's body, if he had the gun, or if the gun was in the car, or exactly where the second gun was. We've yet to get like a clear answer on that part of it.
And Randy, can you kind of just give us an update on what has happened to this officer Santos? Is he still with the force? Is he on leave? What is his status? Is it pending right now?
He's on an administrative leave right now. One of the things that Crump points to, Crump says that this situation right here shows the need for a national police registry. And one of the reasons is, you heard Attorney Crump talk about this. Back in 2013, Santos was a Galveston police officer with the Galveston Police Department. There was an incident where a gentleman by the name of Reginald Davis was pretty much brutally abused, if you will. Now, after it happened, Santos, from what I understand, Santos left the force. But the big question is, why did the Marque Police Department turn around and hire him just a few years later? That's kind of the big question right now, is why did they do that? Another interesting thing, too, back in 2017, Officer Santos was involved in another shooting. And in that, I think it was a burglary call, something like that. The suspect that he shot then was waving around a sword or something. Now, a grand jury looked at that shooting, and he was no-billed. Officer Santos was cleared. But the thing that's kind of coming to light right now is you're looking at sort of a checkered past, if you will, that this officer had. And again, the big question is, why did Marque PD hire him after this incident that happened when he was with the Galveston Police Department?
And Randy, just lastly for you, Benjamin Crump brought out, famous families who have had this happen to them, the brothers and siblings of George Floyd from this spring, and etc. But are they confident that they'll be seeing that police body camera footage anytime soon? And what have the police said in regard to that? I know that's what they're seeking at this moment.
Right. It's the standard. And of course, I think everyone would agree that let the process play out. And the process is that You know, you've got Marque PD doing an investigation. You've got the Galveston Sheriff's Department. You've got the Galveston District Attorney's Office doing an investigation. And of course, they want to keep everything, you know, we don't want to release anything yet. But then you go back to a point that Ben Crump makes. If the video, if the body cam video, the dash cam video, there's video too, apparently, from people's houses, you know, in the neighborhood, from their surveillance videos. If all of that video, if the videos justify what Officer Santos did, let everybody see it. And you have to kind of wonder if that is the case. Yes, there has to be an investigation, but why not release some of that, or at least let some of that be public? Sometimes these investigations, they can take many, many months, and people want answers, you know, so it's understandable that most people feel like, hey, if everything's okay, if it's all kosher, let's take a look at it.
And Randy, you know, there's been so many of these incidents tragically this year, and a byproduct of that is, you know, some of these protests that happen in these places where these tragic shootings happen. Have we seen any of that in Texas City, in the surrounding environs at all? Have people kind of taken to the streets, voiced their outrage at this, or has it been somewhat quiet?
It's been quiet. This is another interesting thing, too. You have to remember, Marque is a relatively small city. The mayor knew Joshua Feast. Officer Santos knew Joshua Feast. I mean, it's like everybody kind of knows everybody. Now, the mayor, who is African-American, last week, you know, he basically asked everybody, look, let's just stay calm, let the process happen. And they've promised over and over again to have transparency. Now, you know, that hasn't happened yet, but again, you have to understand that there has to be a formal investigation, and all of these things have to kind of be kept, you know, with law enforcement until they can make some sort of, where they can come out and say, here's the findings of our investigation. But you've got to hope that something will be released soon, or they will kind of publicly either release the video or give more of an explanation, because at this point, the Marque Police Department has not said anything more than they did on the day that the shooting happened last week. So they've given no new information yet.
All right, Fox 26's Randy Wallace. Thanks for breaking that story down for us, for telling our viewers about that story in case they hadn't heard of it yet. So we appreciate your time.
Thank you.
So that was a kind of a great live report for us to break down the particulars of that story, that tragic story. We're going to go back, though, to that press conference from earlier. We've only shown you about 10 minutes of it, so we're going to get back to their attorney there, Ben Crump's remarks, and you can see before that live hit with Randy that he was quite heated about the injustice, in his words, that has been taking place to many, many of his clients and their families. So we're going to go back and listen to that.